So, if you're watching this video, you must be in Dr. Gorham's biochemistry class. By now, it might be too late to change majors, but do not despair. This video will help you become the best biochemist in the game. So, on to the good stuff.
Cellular glycogenolysis is the process that occurs when the body breaks down stored glycogen in the liver. Glycogen is the form of energy storage used by animals that consist of long-branched glucose chains. The glucoses are held together by alpha-1,4 linkages, and every 4 to 12 glucoses, a branch is formed by an alpha-1,6 linkage. Alpha-1,4 and alpha-1,6 linkages refer to the numbered carbons on the 6 carbon structures. We begin with a segment of a glycogen molecule. And the main branch lies horizontally here. The branch chains stem off the main branch and are connected by an alpha-1,6 linkage. The enzyme glycogen phosphorylase, GPL, catalyzes the breakdown of alpha-1,4 glycosidic linkages, removing a glucose 1-phosphate from the branch, one at a time. By the time GPL has finished, 4 glucose molecules remain on any branch points, while 1 glucose remains on the main branch before the branching point. The glucose molecules that are removed from glycogen will come off as glucose 1-phosphate. This is because the enzyme GPL adds a phosphate to the first carbon, or C1, on each glucose that is removed. So in this example, a total of 2 glucose 1-phosphates will be removed from the starting material, which are also highlighted in blue.
So, if Oprah was here, she would yell, "You get a phosphate, you get a phosphate, everyone gets a phosphate."
The enzyme amylo alpha-1,6 glucosidase first removes 3 out of the 4 remaining glucoses on the branch and transfers them onto the main branch at the non-reducing end. It is important to note that the 3 branch glucoses that were transferred onto the main branch are underlined in green. This enzyme then hydrolyzes the alpha-1,6 linkage between the glucoses at the branch point, removing the final branch glucose. This glucose that is highlighted in orange will come off as normal glucose and not glucose 1-phosphate. This glucose is then free to enter the bloodstream. Now that there is only 1 remaining chain of unbranched glucoses, they are removed one by one by the enzyme GPL, which also adds a phosphate to each glucose so that it becomes glucose 1-phosphate. This form of glucose cannot be transported out of the cell, so the phosphate must be removed. So, how can glucose 1-phosphate move into the bloodstream? To do this, the phosphate must be transferred to the 6th carbon with the enzyme phosphoglucomutase because there is no enzyme that can remove a phosphate on the first carbon of glucose. This allows glucose 6-phosphatase to remove the phosphate so that normal glucose can be absorbed into the bloodstream. Okay, so like most topics in biochemistry, things can be a little more complicated than they initially seem. An example question could be, what would happen if the debranching enzyme amylo alpha-1,6 glucosidase lacked the ability to hydrolyze 1,6 glycosidic linkages? First, glycogen phosphorylase would continue to function in its normal capacity. It would remove the glucose monomers from the end of the main branch, one by one, until there is 1 glucose remaining past the branch points, and 4 glucose monomers on the branch. Next, amylo alpha-1,6 glucosidase would still cleave 3 glucose monomers from the branch and move them to the main branch. Glycogen phosphorylase would then remove the newly transplanted residues. However, as an amylo alpha-1,6 glucosidase cannot break the 1,6 linkage, overall, glycogenolysis of this glycogen molecule will stall with 1 glucose remaining on the branch and 1 glucose remaining past the branch point. Until the 1,6 linkage is broken, Any residues upstream of the 1,6 linkage will not be released from the glycule. In our example, glycogen phosphorylase will only be able to remove the 3 glucoses, which are underlined in blue, in the form of glucose 1-phosphate. And here is an image of the products.
So, what's the point of all this? Why do we care?
So think about it like this, Andrew. You and your boys, you go out to the club, you about to order some wings, and of course you pouring down the drinks, right? So you pass out, you wake up the next day, oh snap, I got a final in Dr. O'Gorm's class, you're rushing to class, of course you ain't getting no breakfast. So while you taking this exam, you all unfocused, disheveled. Meanwhile, as you're taking the exam, the glycogen that's stored in your body is breaking down into glucose, and that way you don't pass out in class.